So now that I've broken down all of the episodes of the Disney Plus show Cars on the Road, it is only natural to rank them from worst to best in a tier list, of course, adding on to the series that I recently established. I want to thank you guys for all the support on that first tier list with color changers. You guys gave me oodles and oodles of ideas for more categories in the future, and don't worry, I will be trying to cover as many as possible. I mean, this thing could go on for years, so I'm really excited, and we're going to dive right on in here. We have a new webcam setup. There's a different background. I thought this was a little bit better lighting in here, and hey, spruce up the background. You guys could look at my newly acquired, I got like Portugal, Canada, Japan, and Belgium of the Lightning McQueen Disney Store Country exclusives. I've been after those for forever, so you gotta look at them back there, you know. I'm so excited about them. Anywho, yeah, so 9 episodes of Cars on the Road. I have not done any prep work for this, so everything you're seeing is very natural and authentic. And we're gonna start with the first episode being Dino Park. Now, as you can see, I have slots for each episode. I'm not ranking them, you know, based on good, bad, whatever, because I don't know. I like them all. Some of them are certainly better than others, but I wanted to make this like a legit ranking. Okay, so yeah, Dino Park. This one was fun. I mean, it's introduced us to a world I thought we never see from Cars, especially after Cars 1 and even after Cars 2. It's like, okay, yeah, there's guns and explosions, and then Cars 3 brought us back a little bit. And now, I mean, just the gates are open, all bets are off, dinosaurs, zombies, what's next? Cowboys and vampires? I wouldn't put it past them. I think this is a pretty mid episode though. I think I would probably put it, I'm gonna put it 5 right now. You know, we could obviously change this as we go on, but it feels like a very mid episode for me just because it's all very superficial, doesn't dig in that much. All right, episode 2 was Lights Out, the Haunted Mansion episode. Now this one is interesting. You know, it dives into McQueen's, you know, kind of fear of ghosts and spirits and all that stuff, but it also enters the world of the supernatural, and I don't mean that in a good way. I mean that in the sense that, like, this isn't real. It's like they're breaking their own verisimilitude within the Cars universe. Like, you know, in the Dino episode, everything makes sense, and the Dino dream, you know, it was a dream that Mater had, not real. This, however, sure, you could consider it a nightmare, but it certainly pushes that boundary a little bit more than we're used to. So it kind of, you know, it happens again in a later episode, obviously, with, you know, we'll get there, but it starts breaking a little bit of the believability within the Cars universe. So I like some parts. I love Randy. The character of Randy is awesome. All the references to whether it be The Shining or The Haunted Mansion are great, but I'm going to put it at 6 for now. Episode 3 was Salt Fever. This is definitely going to go in the top 4 here because it has racing. And isn't that, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm, you know, having amnesia or something, but wasn't that the roots of the Cars franchise? Like, isn't that what Cars 1 established? Cars 2 still had it. Cars 3 absolutely had it. So I appreciated this episode. Gave us some new racers to look at, very unique ones for sure. But the whole speed demon, you know, Mater out of his body, astral projection thing, again, like what, when was that ever possible? We're talking angels now. I don't know. That was all a little bit off-putting to me for somebody who really liked the, you know, groundedness of Cars 1, Cars 3. And Cars 2, I mean, Cars 2 is fine. I mean, sure, explosions, I mean, that stuff happens. Episode 4 was The Legend. So now we're chasing Bigfoot, but I am glad it actually was not Bigfoot. Oh man, this episode I feel like is pretty solid. It introduces us some nice characters. Like, I like Ivy, and I liked the hunters, like the cryptid hunters, even though, you know, they're hell-bent on hunting all these crazy creatures, you know, whether it be Bigfoot or Sasquatch, which isn't that the same thing, werewolves. I really do like those characters, to be quite frank with you. So I'm going to wedge it in between. I'm going to move down Lights Out. I'm going to put Legends here. I know I used to have Lights Out higher on my list, but it's really fallen as of late for me. I kind of like the Legend, even though it gets a little corny toward the end. But I do like that one. It also it did something very important, very subtly at the beginning of the episode that they never really touched on again. McQueen is wanting to, spend time with just Mater. He went on this road trip with just Mater. He wants to spend that friend time, just them. Mater wants to be spontaneous, right? And he wants to engage with these strangers. And they never really came back to that, but that is an interesting theme between the friendship of them that I thought, I like that inclusion. I wish they kind of expanded on it a little bit more. Episode 5 was Showtime, the circus episode with the clowns. I didn't like this episode. No, yeah, that's definitely 8. Yeah, that is indisputably for me 8. Ivy, obviously as the big star of the episode, has, the great performance at the end. She joins the circus, but then they kind of nullify that in a future episode, which is why it's not as good, looking back, retrospectively. Like, you watch this episode, it's like, oh, cool, Ivy found her place. She's no longer living in the woods. Yay! And then a couple episodes later, she's like, yeah, no, I got tired of the circus. I'm in the acting now. It's like, oh, okay, you really turned your career around because you were just living, in the woods covered in moss like 3 episodes ago. So again, lots of cool clowns. The, thing of McQueen being scared of the clowns, stereotype, but fine. I don't know. Wasn't a huge fan of that. And a lot of reused, like reskin models. Like all of those clowns are car models we've seen in other movies, and one of which was Sterling. And that is just like, you can't do that. That's like using Holly Shiftwell, or even like Sally's port. I know they have many port. That's a bad example, my bad. That's like using Ramon or Flo's model on like a completely different character. Ramon and Flo are a good example. All right. Trucks was next. Yep. 110% the worst episode of the show. Again, verging on that unbelievability of it all. Like, what's going on? Like, what part of all of that escapade, that whole song and dance, was real? Like, probably just kind of like the chitter chatter, mumbling, singing around the gas station was real. McQueen doesn't notice any of it, so obviously they don't go into like a whole neon world. That was weird, wasn't it? I admit though, the song was catchy. I'll give them that. And it plays in my head every once in a while. I see a truck and I'm like, well, shoot. But very superfluous. There is nothing tangible about that episode. Nothing happens in it. It is complete filler. This whole series could have been 8 episodes. You remove that? Oh. B-movie. Yeah, this is going to be probably my favorite. Yeah, I think B-movie is my favorite episode of Cars on the Road because it did so many things well. It introduced new interesting characters to us, like Bella Cadaver, the director. She is not just some bland director. I mean, she had some mustard to her. She had some guts. Of course, there's McQueen and Mater, a friendship theme of them clashing here, where McQueen wants to be good at everything. He wants to be that star. He has dampened and softened over the years, but he still has that bone in his body. He still has that lug nut in his body where he wants to be the center of attention. He thrives on the celebrity of it all. And Mater is like, hey man, like, you're good at freaking everything. Let me be good at something. Like, I found something that I could actually do. Give me my moment and stop complaining about it when, I'm actually happy about it. I love that. Again, it's, kind of similar to what I mentioned in the Legend episode, a little friction between their friendship, which is bound to happen when you go on this cross-country road trip. So I really like that. Lots of cool set props that are references from not only other Cars movies, but also like Indiana Jones. I mean, there are so many cool things just looking in the background of this episode. The zombie cars are cool. The sheriff was cool, albeit a complete reskin of Roscoe from Cars 3. I love this episode. I really do. Really love that episode. All right, up next was Road Rumblers, the 8th episode. Of course, the apocalyptic one with, again, lots of crazy new characters in this. We had Jeremy, the road rumbler who had no idea what he's fighting for and very kind of humble and also aloof to it all. You had the Captain Longley, the big ice cream monster truck with Australian accent. I mean, that's pretty cool. Chiefess, who's getting carried on 4 Volkswagen Bugs. Now, This is the probably toughest one for me because I know, obviously 2 and 3. These are going to be 2 and 3. I don't know which one's which. Oh gosh, man. I'm gonna put it at 3 because of the fact that the whole conclusion of it all feels a little bit ingenuous. They reuse the same trope from Cars 2 when, how Mater gets out in front of all the lemons and says, hey, I'm just like you guys, I'm just a lemon, why we put the guns down? And of course they don't, and they all fight. And same thing, McQueen gets up on the rock, says, the petty squabble turns into an apocalyptic war, and they all seem to be kind of getting it. And then accidental fire, and they all fight. Okay, so but then they all get back. They all somehow find peace. We don't know how that happened because, of course, McQueen and Mater escape with Jeremy. We have no idea how everyone eventually came to peace, and how Chiefess, not only did they come to peace, but Chiefess also is like, oh yeah, I should probably unslave. I should free my Volkswagen Beetle slaves. So those parts felt a little weird to me. They also sustain all of this damage. Like Ice Screamer, oh my god, not Ice Screamer, but the ice cream truck monster truck, Captain Leggy, eats it. He tumbles, and I mean he looks so fragile to me because his like suspension, his hydraulics were so long that they could just like, they were so brittle they could break, and when he tumbles it looks like they should break. But nope, he's perfectly fine. So yeah, that, a couple things that again are unbelievable about that episode. Also, I don't know how McQueen and Mater are able to spin with such a radial, gravity velocity type thing. I don't know physics, but and their gravity is just not affecting them at all. Okay, anyways, but it was a fun episode. Getting hitched. Oh, by the way, there was another, friendship squabble in that episode at the beginning when they're just so annoyed with being with each other for all this time, and they get into a little petty argument. That is real. Now that is realism. And so that leaves Getting Hitched, the finale of Cars on the Road, as my number 2 favorite episode. The main reason why this is the case is because of Mater's sister Mato. It kind of rationalizes and contextualizes a lot of the previous movies for Mater. Mater has this beautiful sister. I mean, this sister who is a completely different model from him. And I predicted this, when they released that magazine and said, yeah, Mater's sister is not who you'd think. I immediately knew, okay, yeah, she's not a tow truck. She's probably like a gorgeous car. And she was. And they're super competitive. And it makes sense. It is the reason why Mater is so humble throughout all the films, and also why he is just such a kind-hearted person, because growing up, there's a lot you can go into with this. Growing up, it seemed that he was always inferior to Mato. You don't know how his parents treated him, and I don't want to get into reproduction and all that stuff here. That's not what this is. And yet, he didn't become bitter or greedy about it. Instead, it humbled him and made him one of the kindest cars in the entire Cars universe. So the fact that it kind of wrapped up Mater's story with a nice bow on it and made him an even better car afterwards. They dropped all the competition. Gave us great character in Mato. Cruz was back, forcedly so, but it was nice, and I've been dying for it the entire season. I never thought I would have been happy to see Cruz. Cruz is certainly not one of my favorite characters and all that stuff. I mean, she's fine, but I thought we'd see more like recurring characters, because that's what they told us. They said old friends would pop up. So I'm like, oh, Van and Minnie. Yeah. Oh, Boost, the tuners. Yeah, no. Oh. Okay, I'll sell for Cruz. So that was another reason why I appreciated that episode. And there you guys have it. There is my rankings. I'll leave the link for this tier list in the description below, so you yourself can take a stab at how would you rank the 9 episodes of Cars on the Road. All in all, obviously you guys probably know a lot of my thoughts by now on the season, and it wasn't as good as I hoped it would be. It's lacking some things, and that's honestly because they missold it, right? They made it, first of all, seem like these would be full-long episodes, but they are only like 12 minutes long with credits. I thought it'd be more like Monsters at Work, which is the Monsters Inc. Disney Plus show. And secondly, like I said, I mean, the synopsis literally says that old friends would be in this. And along the way, like not just the Radiator Springs town, these old friends would be in this during their journey, and Cruz was really the only one. So I thought that was a bit misleading. So it's not really a problem with my expectations, but they kind of sold it in a weird way. But yeah, guys, I hope we get a season 2, and I'm so glad that we have it, because the fact that Cars came out in 2006, and to say that we got new content, we got 60 plus minutes of new content in 2022, is saying a lot for the longevity and the success of this franchise, which I, as you could tell, have attached myself to very much so, and attached a lot of my livelihood to it, even though this is not a job. But obviously, I'm very invested into this, and so it's great that they're still making content. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know how you'd rank the episodes in the comments, or just make your own tier list. Tweet at me, send it on Instagram. I will repost it. And bye now. Hopefully, you'll be back for another tier list soon.